This is Bam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Robert A. Lane. You're an audiobook coach, producer, and transformational speaker. Welcome to the Fam Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing tonight?
Yeah, doing great, Phantom. Thank you so much for having me as a guest. Excited to be here.
Couple questions we ask anybody before we get to the heart of your story is what motivates you and why do you do what you do?
Oh, wow. That could be a loaded question, but I'll think about something that I'm passionate with, and I believe you are too, and that's being a musician. I love the aspect of being creative. I'm currently working on my third album. So that's in process, and there's just something about the creative process that just I can't even describe it. It's such a great feeling to be able to create something from nothing, basically.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things like I'm at 57 and yeah, I started playing music, started with a recorder and got a clarinet. Didn't realize, I'm a child of the 70s. I'm watching like MTV and listening to the radio. And I was like, wow. It's like I can't really write like what Duran Duran's doing or what Joy Division is doing on my clarinet. So I need to learn something else. So I started learning piano so
Yeah,
I could like a writing instrument. I tried
yeah,
guitar, but my brother was better at guitar. So we created like a basement band. He was on guitar and I was on synths and it just got into it from there and it kept on playing, never stopped. A lot of my friends stopped playing, but I just like writing.
mm,
I'd always written poetry, and then I realized like poems aren't the same as songs, and songs aren't the same as poems, and some lyrics are really poems, and
true. Yeah,
poems are really songs.
yeah.
So then I realized like, oh, it's a little different. So yeah, I just got into it. And I never stopped. I just love to write because it just gives me it's like very cathartic. Do you find it cathartic just to write? You just do it because you love it.
Um, it depends, because we as musicians or just anybody who's creative, sometimes we put ourselves in a position where we apply pressure on ourselves to create, a perfect song or a perfect poem or a perfect painting or whatever, your creative art is. And sometimes that can put a barrier, a creative
Yeah.
barrier, which real writer's block, right? When you're trying to force something out and not letting it flow. So sometimes you got to just remind yourself, just step back, let it happen, and that's when you get your best stuff.
Yeah, it's like the muse. I was always a big I'm a big fan of like the Victorian poets,
Mm-hmm.
and like Blake and Wordsworth and Tennyson and Lord Byron, and they always kind of talked about the muse and the idea is like you kind of I feel like artists we can channel.
Yeah,
And if you let go, then things will come. But if you're trying to like write the perfect song, though like perfection to me is like the enemy of creativity. Because
yeah,
like what happens with perfection is like you wrote an initial thing, on your 4 track. You put it down, it's kind of raw, and then you spend the next week wrecking it, trying to make it perfect when the raw demo is kind of like Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska. You're like, you know what? It's actually better on the Tascam. It's like the stuff you tried to do in the studio kind of wrecked it. Like, let's leave it on the Tascam and leave it the way it is.
yeah. No, that is so true. When I did my first album, you're basically just putting stuff in, recording it, without the intention of it being this is the final. But then when you go back, you realize I don't need to change it. That
Yeah.
synth part was right. That guitar solo, it's fine. It's fine. And that's actually a really great thing because then you realize, wow, and it's true. Sometimes the first take of
First, yeah, early takes. I mean, Elton John was talking. They asked him about Yellow Brick Road.
oh
He said
yeah,
everything's third, fourth take. We were in a mansion. We were recording it live, and like third, fourth take, everything was really good. And if you try to go beyond that, you kind of wreck it.
yeah,
And you think about like Exile on Main Street, like you try to overdo it when they were recording in a mansion, which was like a 1970s thing. They record in these mansions and get the like the feel of the room. With the mic the room and have the
sure,
boards and everything in the house. And there's something about recording like that. Even Zeppelin had some stuff where they recorded drums like in a stairwell. It's like there's something about not having it antiseptic in a studio
yeah,
that maybe being in a house. being in something that's not, you know, recording studio quality.
Mhm.
But sometimes it's whatever serves the song, you know? If it's you don't necessarily have to have the best mic or the best amp, you know, the Kinks, their song "You Really Got Me" was like a broken amp, and it's like they tried to use a better amp, and it didn't sound right.
Yeah.
It's like, use the broken one.
Yeah, it's so true. I was fortunate enough when my group is called Lane's Lair, and the first album I did is called Resurrection of Black, and I was fortunate enough to be able to hire a couple of great session musicians, brothers,
Mhm.
bassist and drummer. I mean, what better foundation than brothers who are a
Others,
bassist
yeah,
and
they
drummer?
got it in tune.
So, so the drummer is Greg Bissonette and his brother Matt Bissonette. And Greg, like right now, he's the drummer for Ringo Starr's All Star Band.
Oh, that's an awesome band, yeah.
And Matt Bissonette, speaking of Elton John, is Elton John's bass player. He's the one who's been touring with him for years now.
Wow, that's
And
cool.
so you put these two guys together. We go into the studio. I have charts for them, but what they're playing to is a scratch guitar, a scratch vocal, a rhythm guitar, scratch
Mhm.
vocal, and a click track. That was it. They come in, session guys, of course. They come in. They don't know haven't heard anything. Give
Yeah.
them the chart. I play them the rough, and they're like marking their charts, and then they're like, "Okay, let's do it." So we go in there. First take, of course, it's phenomenal. I come in and make some tweaks. We do it again. Sounds phenomenal, right? But here's the thing, Phantom, and this is exactly what you're saying. So I go into the recording booth and I say, okay, guys, you know what I'm looking for. Just do your thing.
Yeah, just do it. Just
Do
feel it.
your thing. And I'm
Yeah.
telling you, man, like 85 to 90% of that album is the do your thing take. And that was like take number 3 on each
Yeah, it's when
song.
you trust when it's like sometimes if you're a leader of a band, like, you can kind of be I don't know, you can pull a Pete Townsend. He's writing everything, right? But the thing is, Entwistle's gonna play a bass part better than Pete could ever do,
Oh,
right?
hands
Right?
down.
And
Hands
Moon's
down.
gonna do the drums better than whatever Pete could put down.
Yeah.
And so they're writing those parts.
Yeah.
And you know what happens with a Who song versus a Pete Townsend solo song is
Yeah.
because of Entwistle and Moon, they just like go off and they're like, lead bass and lead drum. And it becomes like the Who is like 4 independent guys just going off.
Yeah.
And somehow it's exploding, but
It
it stays
all fits
together.
in. Yeah.
Somehow it works. It's like it's almost like it's gonna fall apart, but it doesn't fall apart. And he was
Yeah.
like, to me, that was the magic. Because the fact is, they didn't just do what Pete told them.
Yeah.
Pete gave them an outline, but then they put in, Daltrey would do the vocal totally different than what Pete does.
Yeah.
Pete has this very sensitive kind of vocal, and it works on certain songs, but
Mm.
other songs need Roger's delivery.
Oh, yeah.
He has
Yeah.
this he's a lead singer.
Yeah.
So he's like, boom, he can just belt it out. And it was like,
Yeah.
you know what I
100%.
mean? It's like so the trust in your band, like the bass player, is like a bass player is gonna know how to play bass.
Oh,
The
yeah.
drummer's gonna know how to do percussion. And you could have some ideas, but usually they're gonna bring something like a Pursley Shuffle or Ringo or Mooney or Bonham's like Mitch Mitchell. They're all gonna bring their style.
Yeah.
And it makes the band, you
Yeah.
know?
And that's what they did. And it's so funny, after the album was released, and it actually did pretty well in Europe of all places, but okay. The style of my music is like, or at least for that album, was kind of like, Pink Floyd meets
Ooh,
Rush kind of
ooh,
thing,
like Roger Waters, Pink Floyd, not Sid Barrett.
No, yeah, not Sid Barrett, Pink Floyd. No. So there's there's the mooniness in there, and there's the cinematic aspect of it, but then there's the the rockin' kind of quasi progressive, but it wasn't like an ELP album or something that was
Mhm,
really
yeah,
progressive. But it was so funny that in Europe it was embraced by the prog rock community, and I was kind of scratching my head thinking about it's like, well, it's not really a prog rock album. It's more of like just a rock and roll album, but okay, no argument
they
there
must have felt something in there that reminded them of Genesis or Yes or
or something.
or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
pretty
But
funny.
I've always gravitated I love like Yes, and I love Genesis. I would have just been listening to The Lamb Lies on down on Broadway over and over
Yeah, great
because
album.
I just love Gabriel Genesis because I like English aesthetic in
Yeah.
his lyrics.
Yeah.
His lyrics is like it's like you have to really start to dive into like English vernacular to really get what he's talking about, kind of like Ray Davis. Like
Right.
when you
Right.
get into his songs, it's like you really got to like, what do these words mean? They're not American references. It's English, but it's not the same references. Like we got to figure out like where is he talking about? What little village he's referring to.
Right. Right. Right.
But I think that's great about art is like you get brought into the world of the writer.
Hmm.
And you're a producer, you know, of like audiobooks. So how did you transition to that? Like, could you do a lot of audio books? And you know, audio is audio, you know, is it's still all like an audio canvas. You know, what we do in music a lot of times is a
Yeah.
sound painting. So maybe the same ideas.
Yeah. Well, my experience, my career experience, just to go back, I've worked 30 plus years in the entertainment business in various facets of the business. I started off working in radio. So I did, production, and there you go. There's your audio production, and then hosting music shows and talk shows and that kind of thing. And then I've done on-camera work, off-camera work, behind the scenes. The last 14 years of my career in the business, in the industry, was working at 20th Century Fox on the studio lot in Los Angeles. But that was more of on the corporate side, being a project manager, feature
Mm,
project manager. So there's all these different facets of the business. So when Disney bought Fox, which was a big deal a
mm.
few years ago, that's, 4 or 5 years ago, Disney came in, and of course that affected the department I was in. And so it's like, okay, let the firings begin.
Oh no, they downsize it. Yeah, I know about that.
So they
Calvin
come in,
Giant.
because Disney, they thought they knew better. And honestly, I'm going to say it, they didn't, because we had a system. Fox had a system that was incredibly efficient when it came to like creating, encoding files, for all their movies and TV and everything that gets distributed to all, like Netflixes of the world and all that. And Disney was outsourcing all that. But here they bought a studio that has everything in-house. And what did they do?
So
Decimate.
it's just made it. Yeah, they never. Yeah, some of these guys come in because they're actuaries or accountants, and they just think they're just gonna do the top down
Yeah.
without looking at it. I work with transformation all the time, and some of that is transformation come from the top down, or is it actually coming from like people who want to actually evolve the business,
Yeah.
or people want to disrupt the,
Yeah.
the
But
business? Is like,
the thing is though, it's like huge blessing in disguise. When I was let go, they had a decent severance package. So I had that to live on for a little while. And then I decided, I'm going to just reinvent myself. What do I want to do? Number one, I don't want to go back to the corporate world. That I
mm,
knew for sure. So, I've always been an advocate of wanting to help people. So that's when I started Robert Lane Coaching. And I started off as a career/life coach because I figured, with all the experience and the things that I dealt with in the entertainment business, I could translate that into helping others, not necessarily only in the entertainment business, but just any kind of job, how to navigate through any type of work environment. So
mm,
that eventually led to when I wrote my book, Lights Action You, which, because people were saying, oh, you must have a lot of stories from being in the entertainment business. And I'm like, well, I guess I have a few. So the book is taking these stories and experiences, but with each story is a life lesson, a tool, a technique,
mm.
something to help somebody, enjoy the story, but here's the lesson.
Yeah, lessons learned. Like you're trying to be a teacher. It's like anytime you're if you're a producer, you're kind of like a teacher.
Yeah,
You're helping people make something better, right? Or
exactly.
figuring out how to actually actualize as an artist,
Yeah,
make it happen, bring it out.
absolutely. So after I published my book, of course, being an audio guy, hey, you got to turn it into an audiobook. So I did. And then I had other authors approach me and say, hey, can you help me? I want to narrate my own audiobook. And so I
Mhm.
expanded my business, my coaching business, to include the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program, which I created for that specific purpose. And so I developed a 6-week program where I help nonfiction authors with their setup and preparation. I send them the professional equipment that they need to set up their own recording space, and it's theirs to keep. That's part of the program. And I mean,
Wow.
good stuff, Phantom, not like, your
Yeah.
cheapy mic, like, the Shure mics that they use on
Oh, good.
podcasts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Good
all the
stuff.
good stuff. Because, again, I believe you can't cut corners when you're doing anything, creative, especially. You gotta be the best. You got to do the best that you can possibly do. It may not be perfect, but you just
Mhm.
give yourself,
Gotta have a
you
floor. You gotta
yeah,
have a floor, a certain level of quality to have be an entry point to even do it. Yeah.
absolutely. So that I created this coaching program, and so what I decided to do now with my business is, for the career and life coaching aspect, I do speaking engagements because I feel like I can reach more people and inspire, hopefully, more people with, talking about those tools and techniques from a career coaching standpoint as a speaker. Now, for one-on-one coaching, that's what I do with the authors. So,
That's cool.
I'm a big advocate of all nonfiction authors really need to narrate their own audiobook because it's their story. No one
Yeah,
can tell their story better than them. Nobody, not another narrator, definitely not AI, because it's not even your own voice.
yeah. I
So
was wondering about that because I've talked to a lot of authors on the podcast, and some of them get a little gun shy when it comes to doing audiobooks,
yeah,
and they tend to like want to give it to a voice actor
yeah,
because they think it's kind of like I don't know, it's like the idea of imposter syndrome. They feel like, well, I can't
yes,
do it. I'm a writer.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
not an actor. So
oh,
then
that,
if they
yeah,
don't get the fact that's like it's kind of like, the punk aesthetic. Like Joe Strummer was the best guy to sing the Clash songs. You didn't need somebody else.
right, right, and that's a really good point. And so this is the I guess the big takeaway, that if there's any authors out there, any nonfiction authors, or anybody, if you know a nonfiction author, the point is this: you are an author brand. Everything about you is what encompasses your author brand. The way you were brought up, your personality, your sense of humor, and your voice. Yes, the
Mhm.
sound that comes out of your body is all part of what makes you unique. Exactly. Every voice has its own DNA. It's one of my catchphrases I say all the time because it's true. And that's what allows any author to stand out in the crowd. If you're a weight loss coach, let's say, and you've written a book, how many weight loss coaches have written books? Probably a lot. But what makes you stand out is because you narrated your own audiobook and you're presenting your own
Like your
style.
whole, it's like your whole, it's like your DNA, but it's like your secret sauce. Is like why a
Yes.
singer songwriter to me has always had an appeal more than like Tin Pan Alley writer.
Yeah.
Not that those guys weren't great, but
Right.
the idea when like Dylan decided to sing his own stuff, right?
Right.
That when like in his voice, it wasn't like what people expected a songwriter to sound like because
Right.
that's not what the industry had been doing. And but then once he gave a permission structure for everybody that kind of comes after Dylan, you get the Lou Reeds, you get other people who are
Sure.
able to like it's not all about perfect pitch. It's not all about being a professional like Motown level singer, right? That you can
Right.
actually it's actually really powerful when like Joni Mitchell sings her own song.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Hands
that
down.
there's something about like she could write it and give it to somebody else. But when she sings it, there's something about
That's
it's like
exactly it.
Neil Young, it's like what, those Crazy Horse songs like Tonight's the Night. Like when he hears that scratchy voice and he's kind of not hitting perfect pitch, there's something about it because it feels authentic.
That's it. And you hit that is the key. Authenticity. You want to be authentic. Now, there are great narrators out there who are professional. But again, it's their interpretation, not the author's. The author, maybe they wouldn't express a concept the way that narrator did. They wouldn't say it that way. They wouldn't put that type of energy or emotion into it that
Mhm.
the narrator did. So again, you want to preserve the integrity of your author brand. And part of that is narrating your own audiobook. And, you know, I hear this a lot, and it is something that I work with because we do a lot of mindset work. And that is, I hate my voice. I
Yeah,
don't like
nobody
how I
likes their
sound.
voice.
I don't have what it takes. And it's like, no, you do. You need to crush those false beliefs. That's not true. You need to believe and embrace everything about you, who you are, what you're about, because you know what? Your voice is already in your written word. And by you narrating your own audiobook, you're just bringing it to life.
But it gives you like that multiple dimension, right? Because you wrote it, but then when you actually speak, it's like when a singer-songwriter gets the courage to actually put their voice out there,
Yeah.
and they give themselves the permission that like, okay, like my voice is not, it's not like Pavarotti. It's not that. Right? But that's this song doesn't need that.
Yeah.
This song needs me. It's like
Yeah.
when Hendrix was super shy. He used to have a screen up. He was so worried about his vocal delivery, because he's a
Yeah.
great guitar player, but he knew his vocals weren't where he wanted them to be. But the best way to vocalize his ideas was his own voice.
Yeah.
And and it's not, it's never going to be maybe what aspirationally you have these ideas, you want to be like somebody else.
Hmm.
You're always comparison trap. You
Yeah.
want it to be, but at some point you have to accept when you finally hit the mic,
Yeah. Yeah.
your limitation, and maybe you can work within what you can do.
You know, being your authentic self is the number one thing that's going to allow you to stand out in a crowd. You mentioned Jimi Hendrix. He sang his songs, and you know what? If a Hendrix tune comes on the radio and you hear just, the first note of his voice, you know it's Jimmy. You hear the first note of Joni Mitchell, you know it's Joni. You hear the first note of Bob Dylan, you know it's Bob Dylan. That is your signature, and that's what allows you to stand out in the crowd. Same
Mhm.
thing with an author. It's your voice. That's what makes you stand out. You don't want to sound like everybody else. You want to be you.
I think that's the problem with the algorithms today, and why people think that maybe I should use AI to do it, because it's like the perfection trap. Like we were talking
Yeah.
about, like the first, second, third, fourth take versus trying to, anesthetize it, like make the thing so perfect that it has no life. Like I've run into people who like taken their tracks and then made them so perfect that like I don't want to listen to it because there's no soul in it.
Right.
And it's
Right.
like there's something about micro timing, little errors in the rhythm. Is like if you go back and you listen to old recordings, you can find the errors. Todd
Oh,
Rundgren has this famous like loop in something anything where he's talking about the errors on his own record.
yeah. I
Right?
mean, look at the Beatles, right? There are mistakes. There are vocal mistakes. John and Paul are singing together. John says one word, Paul says another word. They
Yeah.
leave it.
They,
There's on the song "I'm Looking Through You." There's a random tambourine hit, just
it's
not
in there.
in time. It's just what? But you know what? They left it because the the energy, the emotion, the intangible, the thing that you can't physically touch but you can emotionally feel. That, matter of fact, is those intangibles that take an audiobook from being mediocre and boring, just a fan freaking tastic, because
Yeah.
it's bringing that authenticity. Another catchphrase I say all the time is, you are the CEO of you. You are
Yeah.
the boss of you. So make great decisions as an author, as an artist, to move your business forward. And I don't consider myself a great singer. I'm not the best guitar player, but I do what I do as a musician, and it works for what I do.
Yeah. It's your vision. Like when you have your own vision, like you don't necessarily have to be the best piano player, best guitar player, best singer. If you approach a song, like sometimes I like to have people kind of stretch out and have the guitar player play the piano.
Yeah,
Like because like the way he's gonna do it is not the way I would do it, right?
sure.
But
Yeah,
it actually might serve the song. In
yeah,
some cases, it's good to actually put yourself into a situation where you're like, you're not the Jimmy Page. Like
yeah,
you're not the top, you're not Eddie Van Halen. Like you are you. But
yeah.
that song works because it's you.
Yep, yep, exactly. And that is like the best analogy in regards to authors narrating their own audiobook. That's what makes you you. Embrace your uniqueness, embrace your voice, love your voice. Again, I teach them when they go through the program. I teaching them tools to confidence tools, basically,
Yeah,
to
develop
to
themselves up.
because you have to have that, because that comes out in your delivery. If you're hesitant, if you're,
Yeah,
you know, it people are going to hear it. They're going to sense it.
yeah, if you feel like you don't deserve to be there, it'll kinda come through, you
Yeah,
know?
it'll
It's
come
like if
through.
you it'll come through, it's like when you have a musician, it doesn't feel like they have a right to be on stage, and then you're like hesitancy
Yeah,
doesn't seem to be like in when somebody's in the zone,
yeah,
and you're like, they're in the zone. Like
yep,
Jock like Jocko from Weather Report, he's like in the zone, he's like, "Damn," he's he's in it. He's
yeah,
like yeah, he's like he deserves to be there, he believes he should be there, right?
right,
He's got it, and you're
right.
like, how do you get that? Well, you have to kinda let go all the the bad self-talk. You have to start to
Yeah,
get into the zones, like, you wrote it, so that is you it's you, right? So you should be able to know it
yeah,
and believe in it. Once you start to own your own craft, then people will start to come to you. It's like law of attraction.
mhm,
Like if you feel like, and people go, "Oh, is that arrogant?" No, it's not being arrogant. It's just knowing that, I mean, this is your work. So,
yeah.
so if you're not into your own work, like who else is going to be into it?
Right. Well, it's not like with either whether a musician or even as an author. It's not like you're saying, "Oh, I'm the greatest, author. I'm the greatest, narrator."
Yeah,
No,
yeah. It's not that.
what you're doing is you're saying, "I believe. I
Yeah, it's a
believe in
belief.
myself as an author. I believe in myself as a narrator." And you have to believe in yourself, and you have to have that confidence, because that's what comes through. And again, from the coaching side of what I do as an audiobook coach is again bringing that to the forefront. Let's get you conversational and be compelling and engaging. And number one, of course, is being authentic, and just being consistent throughout the entire process. Don't worry about, because every audiobook you have to go and you have to edit and you have to do all this
Yeah,
other
yeah.
stuff. But that's my job. Don't worry about it. Worry about doing a great narration. You send your audio files to me. I do the editing. I upload them for publication. I do all the stuff behind the scenes. So all you as an
And the
author need to worry
sound
about,
engineering, like the sound, the engineer can
yeah,
take something and color it.
let the
If there's
artist
some
be the artist.
Yeah, it's just like an idea. It's like, well, what's your I like some people when they first start recording, like they're not sure like how to actually approach the mic.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
distance they should be. There's some like basic things in terms of, it shouldn't be like having your cell phone in front of them.
right,
People always tell people like don't sing the song with your cell phone in front of you in front of the mic. It's like actually try to, get it in your head
yeah, yeah,
and actually don't just read it with the phone like if it in front of the mic because it tends to not, at least I have my experiences, I rather just flow it
right.
without that.
Right. But of course, when you're doing an audiobook, I mean, you're grabbing
Yeah,
your book and you're
yeah,
you know you're actually you are
reading it.
reading. But
Is
but
there a way to do that better?
sure, there is. Of course, there is. And just like with anything, just like whether you're a musician or any kind of artist or creative, practice. I'm going to work. Let's say I'm going to record chapter 5 today. Well, then practice it. Refamiliarize yourself with the material that you've written so you feel comfortable. So when you get into your zone, very important, getting into your zone, then you hit that record button, you're ready to go. And another thing that I do with clients is if you make a mistake, don't go, oh, I got to stop my record. I got to
Stop and
go back.
just keep on
Don't
going
do
because
it.
you'll cut it because you can cut, right? You can
That's my job. That's my job.
so
Just,
you gotta keep on going, right?
keep on going. You just pause, or I'll say, hey, say pick up. So then I know that you're going to pick up the line that you just made a mistake on. No problem. Stay in your zone. Don't stop recording. Keep on going. Because that's what I do as an editor. I listen to everything in real time anyway, so don't worry
That's
about it.
cool. I think that's an awesome thing because that's like the start and stop. I always tell people just get through the whole take
Just do it. Yeah. Just
because
do it.
like even just like trying to get back to the top all the time,
Yeah.
it just ruins it. It's like it's better to just flow through it and
Yeah.
then do another take, like if you want to change it. But like
If you wanted to. Yeah.
just get through it
Right.
and makes sense to me.
Exactly. And part of the editing process that I do is that as I listen and I go through, if I find a sentence or something, a phrase that maybe they slurred a word, or maybe it was a mispronunciation, or maybe there's a lot of noise, you
Mhm.
know, and I can't edit it out. Then I'll take the phrase, I give them a time stamp of say, at this time, I need you to, redo these sets of phrases. So
Mm.
they just go and they just do their
Like
fixes.
overdubs, like just
Yeah.
put 'em
So
in.
they'll record the fix, they'll send it to me, and then I just drop them in and make
That's
it all
awesome.
smooth. Yeah. So
So you're making it, like recording like a song
in a sense, yeah, in a sense, there's the
when you're
same
doing film
concepts
studio.
apply. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
when you're doing like film, the people are doing a lot of overdubs
Sure.
of like
Absolutely.
because like you can record the sound in the scene, but a lot of times I've heard is like yeah, the actors go back and actually do like a
Yeah.
voice track where they actually read the lines again, like maybe in the studio.
Yeah, absolutely. It's ADR, automatic dialogue replacement. They do that. They bring the actor in. In the building that I worked at Fox, had several of those stages, sound stages in there where actors would come in and redo lines because the production audio there was wasn't
And when
good
yeah, they had a problem with the booms mics or wherever the
or
mic
something.
placement
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get upgrade. Yeah, I mean, that's it's like it's taking all these techniques from professional recording and applying them to audiobooks, which is
yeah,
like, it's all to me, it's all in the same space. It's all like, you're working on a project that has to do with sound. Sound could be a
yeah,
film, it could be TV, it could be a song, it could be a
yeah.
music, it could be whatever it is. Like some of those same techniques would apply to anything, right? Maybe
Absolutely.
maybe it's
Right.
vary for certain things that you have different focus, but
Yeah.
overall processes might be similar.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I really any author can do this. They really can. Whether you have speaking experience or not, that's okay because that's what the coaching is for. You can do this. And like I said before, Phantom, no one can tell that story better than the author, period. That nonfiction author lived it, they breathed it, they put their blood, sweat, and tears into it. There was a core reason of why they wrote that book in the first place. So you're
Mhm.
just tapping into that core when you do your narration. And that, again, intangible, right? It's an emotion, it's a feeling that comes through. And that's what makes such a great audiobook.
And I think, like, when we talk about AI, I'll jump into it again,
Yeah,
is some people say, "Well, you take the author's voice and put it into AI and then have AI do it?" Yeah, I guess you could do that, but
you
then you're
can.
gonna lose the reason why you have a real actor instead of AI doing the acting with the actor's voice is
Yeah,
because the talent of the actor is to express themselves in the scene. Right, and how they express themselves is because they have that human capability as an actor, and I
right.
would think that your narrator is the same thing as a musician, is, like, the reason why I don't have AI do my bass line because I wanna do the bass line.
Yeah. Well, the thing again with AI, I look at it as you're cheapening your author brand, and you are because it is not an accurate representation of who you are. Yeah, there are programs, there's companies out there where you can do voice cloning, and you know what? There are going to be subtleties of how that is going to express, phrasing and concepts that you as the author wouldn't say it that way. There are subtleties that it's not going to be able to do. And it's like,
Mhm.
what are you going to do? You're going to dupe your public? You are an author brand.
Yeah,
You're an
people like
entrepreneur.
phoning it in. To me, like, doing the AI is like phoning it in,
Yeah.
and it's also giving it this thing where, it does not the human beings are a little unpredictable,
Yeah.
and that is kind of our secret sauce,
That is our
and
secret sauce. Yeah.
and the fact is, like, yeah, it's not this steady thing that can be repeated. It's a repeatable thing, right? The whole point that all the micro timing and tonal things you do when you sing a song, when a human being singing a song versus somebody kind of clone something
Yeah.
with AI, is like you're gonna have this variation that you'd have to program into the AI to do the variation.
Yeah.
And maybe eventually the algorithms will get closer to human variation, but it's still not gonna be the same as like if you're a Texas blues singer and you're singing that song on stage, it's because of what you feel, what you've experienced and what
Yeah.
you're experiencing in that moment.
Yeah.
And I don't care. The AI is never gonna know what Lead Belly was feeling at that moment
Yeah.
or
Right.
Robert Johnson was feeling at that moment because
Yeah.
that was the moment.
Yeah.
And it's a point in time, and that's why music is beautiful, and that's why art is beautiful. It's kind of those moments in time, like a painter. You put the brush down, you put that thing. Well, that's what it is for
Yeah.
that stroke. What the AI is going to copy that. Well, maybe.
Well, again, like I said, when it comes to authors narrating your own audiobook, don't cheapen your author brand. And you know what? Let's say we'll go back to a coaching thing. If you're a weight loss coach and you've written a book, and you're supposed to be the expert in your field, and now you're going to get AI, you're going to cut corners, and you're going to have some AI voice do it. You're going to have AI teach your coaching program. There's no logic in that, and why would I trust you now to want to work with you because you've cheapened your brand? You're telling me that you can't express yourself and teach your concepts in your own voice, and no, that just, to me, it doesn't make sense. It
But
just
yeah, you
doesn't.
lose the authentic nature
Yeah.
of your craft.
Yeah.
Is the fact that when people come to you to see your seminars because you're on stage and you're doing it, like and it's like you might have a set way of doing it, but I would think most of the time you're gonna feel that room, you're gonna feel that crowd, and you're gonna deliver it in such a way that it's not exactly what you delivered the day before or a
That's
week
right.
before, or a couple of weeks
That's right.
before that. And
Yeah.
that's why people want to see you
Yeah.
because they feel that you're gonna give that real, it's not you're not just doing some infomercial.
Right. Right.
It
Right.
feels real.
Right. And that's a really good point. It's like, a lot of authors, after they publish their book, they go out and they do, book signings, and they may do some speaking engagements and that kind of thing. The people want to hear the author, and by reading the room, that is going to change the way you do your delivery, and that's really, really important. If you had AI do your book, someone's going to expect you to sound like this AI voice, and you're not going to sound like that, and they're going to
Oh,
be like, well, wait a minute.
what's that?
Yeah.
Who's that? Who's that? Is that the same person?
Yeah. So, again, authenticity is key. And being your true authentic self is what makes you you. That's your author brand, no matter what your product is. Again, ebook, paperback, hardcover, audiobook, you got to put out the best quality product that's a fair and accurate representation of who you are.
Now, how much
Hands down.
experience do you have to add actually speaking to narrate? Because, like, a lot of times it's like muscle memory. Everybody puts their 10,000 hours in to get their craft.
Right.
What's the kind of minimum level of practice that somebody has to do, or is it just to the point where they start to feel comfortable? Because it's like you're not gonna probably do 10,000 hours if you never done
Right.
narration before.
Right. Well, and then that's the thing. A lot of people think, authors will think, I don't have what it takes. You really do, because again, since it is your story, you wrote it, you lived it, you created it, you're going to be able to express it. Because
Mhm.
even the way you express it in your book, again, your voice is in that written
It's
word.
already there. So you've
It's
already
already
done a
there.
lot of work. You probably already done the work. You
Yeah,
just maybe haven't vocalized it. So
exactly.
it's a matter of that is how much time does it take for you to get your delivery to, a presentable format where at least you feel comfortable in
Right.
your own skin doing it?
Yeah, and that's where the coaching comes in. That's where we talk about, about the building confidence, doing mindset exercises that help you get into your zone, be focused, be in the present moment, keep yourself grounded. Don't worry about the past, don't worry about the future. You really got to be in your zone. So there's tools and exercises that we go through that help the author get there, and that's key. And then once they start doing it, oh man, I tell you, Phantom, they love it. They get so into it. They get so into it, and
Ready
I
to do
just
their next
love
book.
seeing that.
Maybe they're ready to go on the road where maybe they weren't going to a lot of symposiums and
Yeah,
maybe they weren't doing the talks. and they weren't doing as many interviews because maybe they were more insular and they didn't do it, does
Yeah.
that kind of feed into them being better at doing the PR for their book?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Doing your audiobook is going to give you similar tools and techniques that you would do as a speaker. Now, of course, an audiobook narration is definitely different than doing a speaking engagement, but some of the concepts are still the same. So it will, most importantly, give you confidence.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a confidence level now when your audiobook is done and you listen to it and you're like, wow, I did that. It's like, yeah, you did. You really did. And that's something that you as an author should be so proud because that's a huge accomplishment.
But it's cool to take, you already took ownership of that you wanted to write the book.
Yes.
And now you're taking ownership of how the book is being interpreted. And did you really want to give that to somebody else? And
Right.
so, like, a lot of times, like, if you're a songwriter, it's like, and you're a singer songwriter, it's like we're kind of control freaks over our voice.
Yeah.
In terms of we have a vision, and we didn't just like have somebody write our song.
Yeah.
And had a way we wanted to say something in a certain way, and we actually delivered it because we actually sang it.
Yeah.
We wrote it, we sang it, we produced it, we put it together, and so it kind of starts to put that picture together where you're giving yourself the permission, like, yeah, I'm going to own this. I
Yeah.
own my vision, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Another thing that I have authors do is at the very beginning. It's funny. The first video lesson in the program, we work, one-on-one each week. We meet, and do our coaching thing,
Mhm.
but there's video lessons and that kind of thing as well. But the first lesson is a mindset lesson. It's getting in how do you get into your zone? How do you get in your present moment? How do you get yourself grounded and focused? That's really important because you have to do that before you hit that record button. Very
Yeah, it's
important.
kind of like what the exercise you do before you start like a recording session, you know, like, in terms of like, just getting yourself in the mood,
Yeah.
in the zone to be able to do it. Like any musicians kind of know is like, well, am I actually going in the right frame of mind to do this today?
Right.
you
Right.
know, or should I go take a walk?
Yeah. Right.
Maybe I should
Right.
go do something else because I'm not really there. Um, so they kind of maybe start to learn how to know, like when you're in the right frame to do that.
Yeah, it's and the beauty about having, like sending them the equipment they need to set up their own recording space is that now they have the freedom to be able to do it on their time schedule as opposed to going to a studio. I mean, what if you're having a bad day? What if you're making a lot of mistakes? What if you're just not feeling it? When you go to a recording studio
You're
and they're
locked in.
like,
You like you spent the time
time's
for that
up,
session.
time's up, buddy. You're out of here. We got
You got
another
so much
client coming
time.
in.
It's like you just spent $1,000. It's like, oh, it's like
Yeah.
a lot of
Now, of
pressure.
course, I hold them accountable to make sure they do the work, of course,
Yeah,
but it's great because then they know that their space is set up. They know that, oh, I'm ready to do this. Man, I'm fired up. I'm ready to do this, and they can. And
that's
that,
really cool. I mean,
yeah,
I like the idea that you send them the equipment, that you give them the mic and some of the other stuff. Like, what can you go into a little more detail, like on the equipment people get?
yeah, like again, the microphone that I send them, I do send them the Shure MV7.
Hmm.
So, we're not going to cut corners here. We want good stuff. So I send them that mic. I send them a Sony professional headphones. And the reason why I picked these particular headphones is because they're accurate in regards to the response. They're not
Hmm.
bass heavy. It's not, too thin, trebly sounding. It's accurate.
You're gonna
That's
hear
important.
what they really sound like.
Exactly. And then I have them download Audacity,
Okay, cool.
which, again, it makes it easy for them. And in the program, of course, the video lessons take them step by step. So even if they don't have any technical
The
experience,
capability, they figured out how to how
they
to
can
how
do
to
it.
hook everything up.
It's very methodical. And then I even do a demonstration on how everything works. So, there's no question. And of course, we do meet every week one-on-one. And I make myself available,
For
via
questions.
text and email. If they have any questions, shoot me an email. I'll get back to you right away. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome because then you get people, you give them kind of like, to do it yourself, but not totally do it yourself.
Correct.
You're
Yeah.
giving somebody like a guided guided experience with it.
Right.
Like they're not going to feel like, well, I can't reach the number. There's nobody there. I don't know
Right.
what I'm doing.
I mean, like the first half of the program really is setup and preparation, then just getting used to recording, doing the narration. And again, if an author has a question or I'm having a problem with this, or I have whatever it is, just reach out to me and I'll be there for you. If I have to, if we have to have a special Zoom meeting,
I'll go for it.
emergency Zoom meeting, I'll do it, because
That's
again, it's not about me, it's about the author
what you
doing
want to
the
make them.
best that they can possibly do.
Yeah, you want them to be successful in what they're trying to do, and being able to take somebody's voice. Like you said, every voice has its own DNA, and that's
Yeah.
kind of like that is the secret sauce. That's
Yeah.
what I always tell people is like, you want to compare yourself to whoever, like whoever's out there. It's like, but the whole point of it is like your voice is its own secret weapon, right? Like
Yeah.
that is that's the advantage you have. Like there's already somebody else out there, right? There's already somebody else out there. You might be like, well, I want to be like this person. Well, they're already there, right?
Yeah.
So like, what do you do? Maybe you could be inspired. I'm inspired by
Sure.
Lead Belly. I'm inspired by Sun Ra, but like I don't want to be exactly who they were, and I was never going to be who they are. But I can. You take all the as an artist, we take all their influences and we kind of process it and we
Sure.
move it around and we get these we are the impact of our influences, but then we have our own voice.
Yeah, we
And
do our own
interpret
thing.
it.
We do our
Yeah.
own thing. Just to share a funny story, I'm going to shift to music just for just a second here. When I first started writing music, we just do our thing, not really realizing about influences or whatever. This is how naive I was as a kid.
Mhm.
So I wrote a couple of songs, for like serious songs,
Mhm.
and I was not familiar. Like I really wasn't too familiar with Pink Floyd. I knew of Pink Floyd, but I really didn't know their music.
Mhm.
So I heard a Pink Floyd song, and my little naive mind says, "Ha! Listen to those guys. They write like me."
Yeah, well, it's like you find a tribe that you're in tune with. Yes.
Yeah.
So
So
you like
then I started to listen to Pink Floyd. I'm like, oh, these guys are great.
you have to be in the same. That's why people can end up going and these strange things. Like I was like into Tangerine Dream, and it was kind of
Uh-huh.
coming through some of my stuff.
Yeah.
And Yellow Magic Orchestra is like some of this, was coming through, and people were thinking it was just happened to be I was in that zone, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you can people say, well, are you cloned in that? It's like, no, it's like I just it was in my head, it's in
Yeah.
my subconscious. So something might come out.
Just,
And it wasn't like I was trying to sample it note for note and
exactly.
throw it on the sampler and then put it on the bar. It's like, no, it just came out of me,
Yeah.
you know.
And you know
That's
what?
that happens.
Yeah, it does. And that really does stem back to being your true, authentic self. I wasn't thinking of David Gilmour, Pink Floyd, or anything, like that, or any of the music I was listening to at that time. I just did my thing without really thinking about it. And I was being my authentic self. You are being your authentic self. Nonfiction authors, guess what? You are being your authentic self. It all comes out. And
Yeah, I
that's
think that the permission structure is really important. For, the people get the imposter syndrome and say, "Well, I don't deserve to be the narrator because I'm not a professional radio person, or I'm not a professional, I haven't done this work." So people
right.
like they gotta look for, "Oh, I don't have the resume. I'm not on LinkedIn as a narrator."
Doesn't matter.
So
It doesn't
so the
matter.
reason they can't do it is like because, well, everybody has to take that first step.
You
Like
got to
it is.
take that first step. I mean, I did my own audiobook, it's me. That's just who I am. This is what I did. Oh yeah, it'd be great if I had, I don't know, Morgan Freeman narrate my audiobook.
Yeah.
That'd be great. But you know what? It would still be his interpretation.
Yeah, it's
And
his voice.
and
It's
and,
magic.
and the way that he would express something wouldn't be the same way that I would express it because that's not how I would teach this concept. So that's again another reason why nonfiction authors, you guys, you really need to narrate your own audiobook because that's your unique stamp.
That's gonna be the differentiator.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's gonna give you, because like, if you put it into some niche where it's in that Morgan Freeman niche, it's like people are like, well, it's like that's his voice.
Mhm.
So they're gonna associate with his voice. And
They're
then they
going to associate
associate
with,
with like the work he's done.
yeah,
And
right.
they're kind of thinking about like all this stuff that he's done that may have nothing to do with your idea.
It's exactly like they're going to associate with Morgan Freeman as opposed to associating with the content. The content is what you're trying to express, and they're distracted by this other
Yeah, because
voice.
they're known properties, like the known found sound is gonna people are gonna people when they hear things, right?
Yeah,
They get their own interpretation. If they heard something over
yeah,
and over, like some professional's voice, they're gonna like we're saying, they're gonna associate that professional's voice with whatever other products or other things they pitched. And like your voice was probably never heard. So that's
right.
gonna give you they're gonna focus on what you're saying
Yeah,
because they don't have a reference point of hearing your voice attached to something else.
that's right, and that's how you stand out. That's how you stand out in the crowd
So
by
that's
being
that's the
your
argument.
authentic self.
That's the argument, like the logic is like, "Well, wow, how come it wouldn't work with the popular? The popular person has all these things they're attached to,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And they might not be in sync with what you're doing. They might be popular to make you ping the algorithm like, well, yeah, it would be great if Taylor Swift would did this, but like that's her thing.
yeah.
Do you want is your thing like her thing? Probably not.
Right, right. Yeah, I don't, you don't want to sound like somebody else. You don't want to be. It's like somebody else. You don't want to try to interpret or imitate somebody else. You don't have to be radio DJ person. Be yourself. Some people worry, oh, I have an accent or
That
whatever
might
it
be
is.
your
It's like
secret sauce. I mean, that might be the thing that does it.
that is
That is
that
the
is.
thing, like the accent. Like my wife has got a Barbadian West Indian accent. Kind of sounds Scottish.
Mhm,
And it gives her secret sauce. She does a lot of like audio stuff
mhm,
with her voice, and people really like it. And it's like
yeah,
it took her a while to kind of get the confidence because like, oh, I've got this West Indian voice, and she was trying to like minimize her accent. So no, don't minimize it.
no,
Like dive into it.
yeah. Let's like I say, embrace your voice, love your voice, love how it sounds. It's okay. It's okay. You got to love your voice. I know we all do it. I've done it. Everybody does it. They hear themselves on recording for the first time and they're just like, oh my God, I sound like
I hate
that.
it. I hate it. I hated it. Yeah,
But you know
that's
what? It's what makes you you. And that is such a key component of your author brand. So you can narrate your own audiobook. You can get it done in 6 weeks. You can do it. You can do it and it will sound great and
well,
people will
six
love
weeks.
it.
I was going to ask how long it takes, so that's not that bad. That's
No,
pretty good.
the program is designed to go set up in preparation, narration, and have all your audio files uploaded for publication by the end of the 6-week program. It is doable,
And that's
100%.
and that'll work on all the major platforms that audiobooks are done on, or like a primary platform.
Usually, authors just want to be on Audible, Amazon, and Apple,
Mhm.
which is great. So, and I teach them how to do that, how to get everything on there, and then I do all the uploading for them. Now, if they
Okay,
want
so
to be on other distribution platforms, it really depends on what works best for them. It's
mhm,
like you can't just say, "Oh, let's throw the spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks." That's not
mhm.
that's not good marketing. Like you can't just say, "I want to be anywhere and everywhere," because then you're going to actually confuse your audience.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
So
because they
like if
want to
someone said,
target.
"Hey, where can I get your audiobook?" Audible. Great, done. They know what Audible is, they know where to go, they know where to get it. Easy.
So you targeting, yeah, it's because sometimes people trying to make it available everywhere might be, like, minimizing your impact in
Yeah,
some cases.
that's exactly it. You minimize your impact and it's harder. It's not targeted. Like you say, it's not you're taking that aspect away. Make it easy for your readers and your listeners. Say this is where you get it.
Are there lessons learned when you got into this? Like, are there 3, like, big things that you maybe didn't expect? Because you're a professional, were there any
Um,
kind of surprises when you first got into this?
You know what? I would say the biggest surprise, and I think it's an awesome surprise, is, I do my coaching. They send their files to me. I'm in editor mode and I'm focusing on editing. When I do the final mastered audio file, my final output, that's when I really get to listen. And, I do this all the time. But I have to say, what's a great surprise is when I listen to the final output and I hear that author do their narration, I get sucked into their story. I'm engaged in the
You're a
story.
fan. You
And I'm a
become
fan,
yeah.
and so, then I reach out to them. I said, hey, great job on that. Where's your next chapter? I want to know what happens. I want to know now what's going,
Get into it.
I'm into it. I'm into it. And that is just an incredible testament to the ability that the author does have to be able to convey their message, to do a great delivery, to, do a great narration that will make people be engaged from opening credits to closing credits.
That's a
Love
great
that.
thing about being in the creative world is like working with other creative people kind of drives me, you know, to be
Yeah,
able to like every time I do a podcast, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I know I'm talking to these creative people and they got these ideas and the things I probably haven't heard before. And being a writer myself, it gets me to, I get to travel around the world virtually
yeah,
and
yeah,
get to hear all these things, and it actually influences some of the work. I'm working on a new album, and I get these ideas, and sometimes it comes out of like the people I talk to.
yeah,
I get these ideas to like approach things in a different mind worldview, or I hear a phrase and it's like, wow, it's like I hadn't really thought about that. It makes it's just like other human beings. How we communicate really does kind of rub off on each other.
it does. It does. And you're right. Influences just come from a variety of things, and things that you wouldn't even expect. And here's a funny thing I want to share with you real quickly. In the shower, in the master bedroom shower, I have a notepad and a pencil. And the notepad, you can write in the shower.
That's a cool thing. You get ideas in the shower, yeah.
Because I mean, right? How many times have you been in the shower and you get this epiphany, and you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh no!"
I get ideas. That's why I got a bedroom studio. I'm sitting in here. I got my Moog in the back. If I get an idea, I can just hit the record on
Yep,
my multi track, and then boom, I'm recording something.
exactly,
And so I don't
exactly.
gotta go run to the studio because like I got like multi tracks all over the room,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I got all kinds of devices. I can like jump on something. I can jump on my I jump on something that's like an NPC, or I could jump onto my Juno,
uh-huh,
and I can just go and do something. Right?
yeah,
I can just put it down. And it's like whether I'm going to use it is just, but the fact I can just put it down is like a
yeah,
note. I don't have to go to my basement or go to a studio, go to the garage. It's like it's right here. So
yep,
like, I end up writing like all the time
yeah,
because I put it in front of me because I got this idea where like I do want to write all the time, so I put it right where I am.
yeah. I mean, it's like an idea is an idea. It's neither good nor bad. It's an idea, and you archive it, you log it, you go back to it. If you use it, great. If you don't, that's okay. But it's the process of doing it.
Their value in the fact that you have ideas and make sure you don't lose them.
Yeah, yeah,
When you get to the point where like you're creative, it's like I better keep my voice memo with me. I better keep my little notepad with me.
oh
You
yeah,
know, I better have it because like I'm driving, I hit the voice memo. It's like I can put this down
yeah,
on the Bluetooth.
yeah. And it happens, and like things just flow into your brain, without you expecting it, and then you just have to grasp that moment and grasp that
Put
opportunity.
it down. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
just yeah. It's just a creative lifestyle where you're just open to it and you don't throw it away.
yeah,
you let
yeah.
you're either like in tune to it. Your receiver's on, and you take it in and out. And I think it's cool when people realize like that you can live that kind of life, that you can be a creative like powerhouse.
Right,
And
right.
it's like it's all like it's up to you.
Yeah. Right. And then the one thing that I remind authors when they record their audiobook is like, look, don't be a George Lucas and think you have to change Star Wars every few years because you want to add an effect in there. It was fine. The original was fine.
You have to redo it
Trust
10 times.
trust your instincts, trust yourself. Because I've had authors say, like they get into it,
You want to go
with
back
the,
and
and
re-record
then they
it?
want to go back, right? They want to go back and redo it. It's like, no, it was fine.
Remaster it. No, you don't
You're
need to do it.
fine. Trust me, it is fine.
Yeah, I really like to go back and redo the same thing over and over. And I'm like, I already seen that. I don't need to see it again.
Yeah.
Let
There's no need
me
to do
see
that.
something new. I want a new story. Please
Yeah.
give me the new story. Don't give me the old story repackaged.
Yep.
But I want to thank you for being a guest on the Family Electric Ghost podcast. We've got your Bitly there, audiobook onboarding, and that
Yeah.
will be
So
fully
this link, if you're a nonfiction author and you've got a great book that's out there and it's not in audiobook form, that is my personal calendar link. Book a call with me. That's your first step. We'll talk about your book. We'll talk about your marketing strategies, what you want to do. I'll give you details about the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program. And if it resonates with you, we get you enrolled. It's that simple, but it starts with a phone call. Don't be afraid to make the call. Just do it. Okay. I'm not going to hard sell you. I'm not a used car salesman. I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do and helping authors turn their book into audiobooks and using their own voice. And it all starts with just a simple phone call.
Yeah, and that link right there will be fully clickable. We were just on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. It's in the podcast description. We're going to be on all the major platforms where you can listen to a podcast or watch it. So you'll be able to check it out there. And again, they're fully clickable on those links. So we do advise everybody that watches or listens to the podcast on whatever platform they like, to actually click on the links of the guests that we have on the show and book yourself a call if you're an author and you've been like worried if your voice was not the voice you need to do the narration. Now you just saw this episode and get the courage and take that step and hit the link.
Definitely.
And give them a call.
Yeah. And, you can always go to robertlanecoaching.com, has everything there. robertlanecoaching.com has, the links and there's clips of other authors that you can hear how they did their audiobook, and they're not professionals, but they sound great. So check it out.
I want to thank you again for being a guest on the Family Electric Ghost podcast. We do have a lot of authors on the show, and I hope a lot of them will check this out if they've been kind of wondering what to do in the audiobook space. And now you got an idea. You just gave me an idea.
Thank you so much, Phantom. It's been a pleasure.
Have a good night.